first people to settle the Mediterranean archipelago of Malta came from Sicily over 6,000 years ago. Why they first travelled the 60 miles across the sea, we don't know. How they supported a thriving community for nearly 2,000 years is a mystery. And what finally caused the dramatic collapse of the temple culture on Malta lies locked in the remains of the community that rose, thrived, and ultimately failed here.
Small places tell us big stories. We always want more and more. Of course, restricted space is restricted space. There are limits to growth. And here on the Maltese Islands in prehistory, those limits were met. I think we can learn a great deal from that scenario.
Caroline Malone has been studying the archaeology here for the last 25 years. Many of the artefacts she's unearthed are on display in the island's museums.
We found at the bottom of an enormous collapsed cave system not only a lot of buried human beings, but also some very, very important objects, and here they are.
She's published books and has lectured extensively on the subject. She's now heading a 5-year programme of research.
Collectively, we've got 4 areas: environment, population, chronology and archaeology.
But what possible questions can she have left to ask?
What we've been able to examine up to now are the temple sites of prehistory and a bit about the people, the burial of the people. But beyond that, we do not know the lives of those people before they died. We don't know about the economy, about the settlement, about how they extracted life from this very rocky little place.
When Temiz Amit, regarded as the grandfather of Maltese archaeology, started work on the temple at Tashin 100 years ago, little was known about its history.
It represented the first proper excavation of any temple in Malta. And even though the excavations leave a lot to be desired nowadays, they nevertheless were able to record in context and in situ many of the really important pieces of artwork.
The islands of Malta and Gozo cover a total footprint of a few square miles. By no means a large landmass, but still big enough if you're trying to look for evidence of lives lived thousands of years ago. From examination of maps and observations of the landscape, a potential site for further examination is identified. Then, before drilling and digging begins, a technical assessment is made using ground-penetrating radar.
The way I put it is that I'm a target finder, and that is that if the team are looking for a thick succession of sediments to drill the core, or looking for something of archaeological interest, I can tell them where either of those things are.
This particular site, the temple at Tal Qadi, is one the team has not visited before. But in just a matter of an hour's examination, Caroline and Alistair can see there's scope for further investigation. One of the co-investigators on this project is Dr. Chris Hunt, who specialises in reconstructing past ecologies through analysis of pollen and other organic matter.
Okay, that's it. That should do it. What I'm looking for, or what some of my colleagues would call an archive, basically a place where material is stored in the landscape from long ago and where it's built up in nice, sensible layers that we can understand. And when you get that, then you can look into the past.
Dr. Hunt is leading the drilling operations to look for cores that will bring valuable records to the surface. This is the only opportunity during the next 5 years the team will have to drill cores, and that part of the process has been a resounding success.
We've got some very good material. We've got a core of over 10 metres. We've got several shorter cores, and the quality looks very good. So I'm delighted because when I started working this way in Malta a few years back, I was told, don't bother, there's nothing there. So I'm really very happy.
There's never been a more important time to tell this story. The population explosion on the island has led to a pressure on an already stretched landscape. 450,000 residents and 100,000 empty properties crowd the 2 inhabited islands.
There's a disjoint between our small economy today and what we have inherited from the past. We look forward to investment from European Union, especially but we also need to find other ways of funding restoration and conservation.
Much of the prehistoric temple culture of these islands remains a mystery, but that could all change in the near future.
We do know that at the end of the temple period, as we call it, about 2,500 years BC, it was catastrophic. They just simply walked away from those sites. Why did they do that? Something went wrong. What caused that? Well, this is the great question of the project, but at the end of 5 years, we just might know why a civilization rose and finally failed.